Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Salesian Sports Broadcasting Podcast. We're on episode 7 now. I'm Michael Zadrima, and today we're going to be starting off with NFL rumors. So we know the XFL is out right now, but, NFL is, the NFL. So that's basically what we're going to start off with today. And biggest rumor in the offseason is obviously of Tom Brady. Tom Brady has been with the Patriots for forever. His legacy is in New England, but maybe he wants to start a new legacy. So, two possible places besides the New England would be the Chargers and the Raiders. So, the Chargers are almost about 100% going to let go of Phillip Rivers. So, to replace Phillip Rivers with Tom Brady would be a very good change, and it could bring their team to a higher seed and possibly a playoff run. A second team is the Raiders. Now, I couldn't say too much about the Raiders, but I mean, if he could get some things working over there, maybe that could be a good spot for him. But there is still a chance that he stays with the Patriots. He has Belichick there. He has his duo partner, Julian Edelman, there. So, it's likely that he will stay with the Patriots, but, the Chargers and the Raiders are good options for him. Some people even say he might go to the Buccaneers, but, I don't know. The Buccaneers might want to give Jameis Winston a little bit more time, and, after this season, if Brady's available, maybe they will, but that's, just rumors for now. Second, we have Jadeveon Clowney, and he wants to return to the Seahawks. The right outside linebacker, who I believe currently plays for the Texans, he says that he wants to return to Seattle because, well, he just wants to win. I mean, his history with Seattle, I believe he was on the Super Bowl winning team. So that's an opportunity to win another ring. It could be good for Seattle. They have, offensive stars such as Russell Wilson, of course, and if they still keep Marshawn Lynch. And just adding to the defense would be a good idea. But like we mentioned earlier, Phillip Rivers is more than likely not returning to the Chargers whatsoever. The veteran quarterback is looking to be a starter on another team. Which team that is, it's not 100% set, but there are rumors that the Colts, the Indianapolis Colts, are most likely going to pick up the quarterback. Rivers isn't the greatest in the league right now, but he's not bad. He's definitely a very good quarterback, and he's a veteran. He could teach the rookies around him. And the Colts have a motive to pick up Rivers because of the retirement of Andrew Luck, who is actually very shocking that he did retire because many may say that he was still in his prime, but that's a discussion for another day. And on to New York Giants, who better come in this season, making some noise because it's not been looking good for the past 4 or 5 years. But Alec Ogletree and Kareem Martin have been released as of Wednesday, February 26th. They were just, I don't want to say a waste of cap space because I don't want to be rude, but they were basically a waste of cap space. They were all right, but not worth, $5 million like Alec Ogletree was given. The Giants have now more cap space, and they have dead money. So new linebackers on the team would be a good idea. Now, going on over to the Cowboys. Cowboys aren't doing bad. They just picked up a new coach, so this season is looking good for them. They are expected to bring back left outside linebacker Sean Lee, who is very good on defense. I believe he had 80 tackles this season and 1 interception, so that's not bad. He's been putting in his work on the defensive side. However, the same cannot be said for the team's tight end, Jason Witten. Witten will be on the free agency list after retiring in 2018 and then coming back for this season to play with the Cowboys again. Yeah, it's most likely, like I said, these are rumors, but it's most likely that they're not gonna pick him up again. So for any teams looking for a tight end, a veteran tight end who could get the ball, I believe he had about 30 catches or even more with 500 plus yards. So that's pretty good. And speaking of passing yards and being able to score touchdowns, we have the trader, Odell Beckham Jr., star wide receiver for the Cleveland Browns. People are saying that he may be traded this offseason, which, for these Browns fans who said they were gonna come out this year and, go crazy, that didn't happen. Sorry. But there's still a chance. Reporters say that the team may trade Odell for draft picks and other needed players and maybe some money. However, general manager Andrew Berry says that they want to keep Odell on the team. They want to be able to have him adapt to the team's plays. They want to work with him in the future because they think he could have a more serious role to the team's legacy as a franchise. So, Odell, he's not bad. He's a little overrated, but I'm not going to talk about that. Trader. Anyway. But yeah, these are really the major rumors. Of course, there's more rumors going on in the NFL. Anything can happen, really. It's the offseason of the NFL. Draft picks will be coming. Players will be coming. And, anything can happen. Now I'm going to pass it off to Colin.
Hey everyone, this is Colin here. I'm going to, just for a little bit, go over some of the points that Michael went over and give my own opinion on them. Now, obviously, starting off with the biggest news of this whole entire offseason, Tom Brady. Now, personally, if you ask me, there's been a lot of teams discussed about Tom Brady. But if you have to ask me, I think one of the best destinations for him are actually the Indianapolis Colts. Now, one thing about the Colts is that Brady often throughout his whole entire career played in Gillette Stadium, and as you know, that is an outdoor stadium. So I think that Brady, as he gets older, he might like that sort of more of an indoor setting. I think another big factor for the Colts is that they have a great O-line led by All-Pro Quinn Nelson, who we know is one of the best young offensive linemen in the whole entire NFL. So I think that Brady should definitely consider the Colts because they're also a competitive team as well. If you don't remember, last year they actually made it to the divisional playoffs where they lost to the Kansas City Chiefs. But back then they had Andrew Luck. But I think Tom Brady could kind of somewhat duplicate what Luck had. I'm not saying he's going to be as good now because obviously Tom Brady's getting older. But I think for the Colts, that'd be a huge step up from Jacoby Brissett. And I'd be looking forward to seeing that. And I think that definitely the Indianapolis Colts should look into Tom Brady. Now move over to Phillip Rivers. And I think that the best destination for Phillip Rivers might be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, the reason why I say it is because of mainly Bruce Arians. Now, as we know in the past, Bruce Arians kind of spoke out publicly that I don't think he's that thrilled with Jameis Winston as a starting quarterback. Now, if you ask me, I think that he could do a lot with Phillip Rivers because if you don't remember, previously Bruce Arians worked in Arizona where he had Carson Palmer as his quarterback. And now, if you don't know, Carson Palmer is kind of a journeyman quarterback who really hadn't had that much success in the NFL. But Bruce Arians was able to actually turn that around. Carson Palmer ended up going to the NFC Championship game where he ended up losing eventually to the Carolina Panthers. But I think that if you give Bruce Arians a quarterback who, originally had talent, I think he can kind of work around that. And I think with Phillip Rivers, he might be able to kind of revive the kind of lost season he had last year. And I think putting Phillip Rivers in that offense, as we know, Phillip Rivers loves to throw the ball a lot. He's kind of more as a gunslinger mentality. I think that would work out well with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, and especially in that offense, which is a high passing attack. Jameis Winston was one of the highest passing yard quarterbacks in the league last year, and that's just how the offense likes to run. So I think if you really put any quarterback in there that likes to throw the ball a lot, that would work out well. And Philip Rivers definitely fits that mold. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about the New York Giants. As Michael said, they released Al Ogletree and Kareem Martin. And what this does for the Giants is they actually freed up a lot of cap space. Now, if you ask me, I think the offense is mostly good besides the O-line. Obviously, that's been a problem for a very long time, as is pretty well documented. But I think that you have to spend a lot of this cap space on the defense. Now, I think that the offense is very young. Obviously, Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, Evan Ingram. I think you could really build this offense up, and the more they play together, the more experience they're going to get together. So I think really the main key for the Giants is for us to be a contending team, you got to put a good defense around that offense. Because with that defense, I think you could really shut things down. I mean, a lot of problems too back with Eli Manning was that the Giants weren't able to score points, but basically automatically once Daniel Jones put into the starting lineup, the Giants just scored more. And, I think that putting that defense around them, I think the Giants could be scary for years to come. So if you're Dave Gettleman, I think you got to spend big in free agency on the defense, especially also for the draft. Just building up that defense will really help us for the future. Now, finally, I'm going to talk about the Dallas Cowboys. Now, the Cowboys haven't yet signed Dak Prescott, and I think that's kind of alarming. Now, I think the Cowboys feel like they could do better because, Dak Prescott, they say they love him, but why haven't they signed him yet? I just think it's kind of strange. Now, as we know, Dak Prescott has been for the Cowboys for about 4 or 5 years now, and he's been good, but that's really all you can say. He's been just okay. He hasn't really showed up in those playoff games when they needed him the most. And I think if you're the Cowboys, you might consider moving on. Now, I'm not saying it's 100% guaranteed, but just the fact that they haven't signed him yet, I feel is kind of alarming. They're probably going to end up going for a franchise tag, but I don't think this is kind of a match that's set to work for a long time because I just feel that this kind of long period of waiting, I don't think that bodes well. I think they're already kind of thinking about it, moving in another direction, because I think most people would argue if you put any other quarterback or any top 10 quarterback in that offense, they'd be much more better because you have Ezekiel Elliott obviously in the backfield, that offensive line. Just imagine putting Patrick Mahomes in that offense. Now, that would be lethal. You wouldn't be able to stop that because you have to worry about Mahomes passing and Ezekiel Elliott running. And just the fact the Cowboys haven't signed Dak, I feel like they think that they can do better. So I think that that's one of the themes where you probably won't see that play out this season where they lose Dak, but in the next couple of years, I think that's definitely going to be a big topic for the Cowboys. And NFL free agency starts very soon. I'm very excited to see what happens, and we'll see.
Well, as Colin said, I kind of agree with a lot of his points. I mean, the Cowboys not, signing Dak Prescott already. That is alarming, I will admit. That's their starting quarterback. He hasn't been bad, like Colin said, but he's not a Patrick Mahomes. He hasn't been making big noise in the NFL yet. But anything could change. The Cowboys could sign him. They might just be looking at what's a better signing deal for them to keep some money for more pickups along the season. But who really knows? I mean, the NFL offseason could be crazy sometimes. Tom Brady's probably the biggest thing out right now. A lot of teams would love Tom Brady. I mean, he, when he came into the NFL, you could look on any interview about him. I mean, he can't throw the farthest. He can't run the ball. But it's just something about him that he could get the ball to where it needs to be. He has such accuracy that it's really deadly, especially in those fourth quarter moments where the game really counts. If you watched any Super Bowl, if you watched any playoff game, Tom Brady, when he gets in that fourth quarter, it's time to play. There's no time to fool around. That was all before. But, I mean, like I said, offseason is crazy. Anything could really happen. But enough with the NFL offseason. The XFL, I believe it's been week 2, correct me if I'm wrong. But, yeah, week 2, some promising teams. New York Guardians, not doing so good. It's a New York team, so what really to expect. But I'm going to pass it off now. Let's see about the XFL season so far.
All right, this is Albert. Gonna talk about the XFL. So I'm a fan of the XFL. I like how it's a lot more accelerated and how it's a bit small. It's a lot smaller than the NFL is. Um, but if you want to talk about teams that aren't doing the best, can we just point out the Tampa Bay Vipers? I mean, basketball wise, Florida has good teams, but in every other aspect, just no. Um, they're currently 0-3 with 0-3, and they're on a 3-game losing streak. And in first place is the St. Louis Battlehawks, and the behind them is the Defenders, then behind them is the Guardians. That's in the XFL East, and then the XFL West, it's the Roughnecks, the Renegades, the Wildcats, and the Dragons. Personally, my favorite team so far has to be the Roughnecks. I just like how they're really good defensively, and they're just a really good team overall, and I enjoy watching all of them. And I just like the idea of how the rules are different than just copying the NFL's rules and carrying it over to XFL. I like how they changed it up with like no coin toss, shorter halftime, uh, who gets the ball isn't decided on who's home or not. It's whether it's the home team picks where they want to field it or they want to receive it. And I just like it a lot. It's a really good idea. And something that I didn't know was that the original XFL, which only lasted one season, NFL took some of the ideas from the original XFL and put it into the NFL. I'm pretty sure it's the when they use the drones with the cameras, how they like suspend it from a drone so that you can just see an overview shot of the plays. Another thing that they're doing is they're making it a lot more interactive because they're wiring up the players so you can hear them calling out the calls and the plays during the game. And also during the game, if they want to challenge a play, you don't just see them discussing it. You actually get to hear them discussing it as someone up in a booth watches the play on a large screen, and then they decide from there what the decision is. If it's like a touchdown or not. They challenge a touchdown. And I think they also changed the rules with punting, so there's no more 2-point conversions. It's just whatever. It's just I don't know what to call it. And yeah, I'm really impressed with how Vince McMahon took it from being part of the WWE and then selling some of his shares from WWE to make it its own individual Alpha Entertainment company, and completely revamp it and make it a lot better than the original one was. I'm thoroughly impressed.
So this is Mr. Dwyer. How's everybody doing? I've been watching the XFL as much as I can. Hasn't been there. There's some things that I noticed throughout the game that one is these teams have been together very often. They sport has been bad, or that a lot of the games have been that bad. I mean, they are finding themselves. I mean, the St. Louis team has been excellent to watch in multiple facets. The wide receivers for the Wildcats of LA are excellent to watch. DC had a hiccup last time because they were behind and starting to throw into coverages that were just a little bit too tight. It's been, Jones for the last 3 games has been pretty confident with himself, and I think was overdoing it. But nonetheless, I think we're going to see after the season, if they continue it on, that the competitiveness is going to be really, really good. That Seattle audience was phenomenal last week, and little by little, I think it's going to expand.
Another thing I wanted to add was, another thing I like about the XFL is how it doesn't run at the same time as the NFL. So even though when the NFL season ends, you still have football to watch, but it's at a quicker pace, and it's a lot more entertaining in a sense because of how the teams are wired up, and just in general how accelerated the games are, so that it's a very enjoyable, fun experience. Yeah. So pass it to the next person.
Michael again, and we've been talking about football for quite a while, but there is another very exciting sport that is, getting close to the playoffs. The NBA. Not a lot of news recently, but the teams have been, they've been trying their hardest, except for the Knicks. But anyway, big shocker to me, especially this season, was the Miami Heat. They do have Jimmy Butler, and they do have Cam Adebayo. I don't even know how to pronounce his name, but he's a very good player. My favorite player, Tyler Hero, is on that team. They've been playing good. So yeah, I mean, the NBA has been shocking this year because we're so used to the Warriors running everything, So when, you hear the Milwaukee Bucks have a 72-10 season. Let's say they did. We all know by the time they get to the championships, the Warriors are going to be there to stop them. But the NBA is more balanced now, and it's more enjoying to watch for that reason. But the teams have been playing phenomenally, more than others. Not going to say the names, but the Knicks. But anyway, the NBA, sorry. The NBA has been going strong, so I'd like to pass it off to Diego.
With other news from the NBA, we also got that from other teams all around the league. We also got the Indiana Pacers. Jeremy Lamb has went out from the season due to a torn ACL and meniscus after getting blown out by, I think, the Bucks a week ago. At the Raptors. Unfortunate for him. Hopefully he does make a speedy recovery. Not too sure if his future in the NBA for next year at least, but let's see if he can come back very soon. Maybe even next season if it recovers soon. And also Steph Curry is coming back from an injury of a broken hand. He's going to play Sunday against the Wizards. Let's see what happens if Steph Curry returns to form. Can get some games in before the season ends. And also Malik Monk gets suspended indefinitely from the NBA. We don't know if he is able to be reinstated or not, but he's going to be suspended indefinitely because he failed on the NBA's drug policy.
Hey everyone, Colin here again, and I want to talk about, though, today how we have actually our first team clinch for the 2020 playoffs. Now, the Milwaukee Bucks have clinched a playoff spot, and it's only February. Their record right now, they're currently sitting at a 50-8 record, and I think they're primed to go to the finals in the East. I mean, you look at the competition around, you have Philadelphia, Toronto, Boston, but I think all those teams kind of have question marks, and I really think Milwaukee might be the team to beat in the East. And it's crazy, too, when you think about it, because Milwaukee most likely is probably going to have a 70-win season this year, and as you know, all the teams that have done that have gone to the finals. So just the way they've been so dominant this year, especially with Giannis Antetokounmpo, and also other players like Chris Middleton, who was also an All-Star, doing good. Eric Bledsoe as well. And I think the Bucks are very promising, and I think they're definitely a team that you have to look out for, because how are you going to stop Giannis? Giannis has been absolutely dominant. And this also brings me to this now, where a lot of people are starting to talk about Giannis' impending free agency. As you know, he's going to be a free agent in 2021. And he's probably going to be the most sought-after free agent since LeBron James. And I think that it's really tough because, a lot of people are saying that Giannis might want to leave, but it really depends on what happens to the Bucks. If the Bucks can win a championship with Giannis around him, I don't really see any reason as to why he would want to leave. He seems to love playing in Milwaukee in front of those fans. But if it doesn't work out that way, and it's kind of like what happened against the Raptors last year, he might be looking to move. Now, one team that has actually been recently trying to get into trade talks with the Bucks to try to get Giannis is the Golden State Warriors. And the Warriors are trying to, it seems, to package Andrew Wiggins and a couple first-round picks in order to get Giannis, but I just don't really see any reason why Milwaukee would do that. Even if they knew Giannis was going to leave, I think the Bucks would still rather take that 1 year of Giannis playing for them than Andrew Wiggins. And, if Giannis goes on the Warriors, though, that might be worse than Kevin Durant, because I just don't know how you're going to stop that team. Because with Kevin Durant, obviously, he's still pretty athletic, but mostly the problem with Kevin Durant is his shooting. But if you add Giannis' interior offense as well as all the shooting on the outside with Steph and Clay, it's going to be hard to stop. And I think that team, you might have another dynasty on your hands for the next 4 years again. So, Giannis, you just have to wait and see what happens to him. It's going to be very interesting. And, in terms of the other teams in the East, though, like Philadelphia, Joel Embiid actually had a very good game recently, dropping 49 points, and Ben Simmons is actually injured, so he's been kind of having to do it on his own. But, I think it's going to be very good going on later into the season. Obviously, the Lakers are still the Lakers, Clippers are still the Clippers, and everyone's waiting to see what happens in May when those two teams will eventually face off, as we all know they will do. So I think it's very entertaining to see, and can't wait to see what happens.
Hello, this is Chris, and we're going to switch the topic. We're going to talk about baseball. Now, what I want to talk about, the Yankees and the news that we've gotten over the past couple of weeks involving injuries. Now, if you watched any part of the 2019 Yankee season, you will know that injuries pretty much ruled the season. It was a season full of injuries. The slogan "Next Man Up," right? So, and it was a very fun season to watch, surprisingly, because there were nights when we were watching a team with Brett Gardner hitting cleanup and Gleyber Torres batting third, and it was just like, how is this team gonna win the division? And they ended up having a historic run against the Orioles, where when it came to home runs, they ended up being better when most of their guys were hurt. And obviously they won the division. They beat the Tampa Bay Rays. They won the division by a lot of games, I think by 7 games by the end. Like, they had a pretty good lead towards the end of the season. And eventually the guys came back, like Aaron Judge and Luis Severino and Giancarlo Stanton and Aaron Hicks, but it was a tough year for those guys because they were hurt most of the year, and it was disappointing that we didn't get to see those superstar players. But it was very fun watching this team of Triple A minor league players be in the starting lineup and winning games for the Yankees. So that was a lot of fun. But the injuries are starting again. All right, we have a lot of injury news. Some worse than others, some minor injuries, but still. All right, first we got Giancarlo Stanton. He's going to be out for a couple of weeks. He might miss opening day. Aaron Hicks got Tommy John surgery right after the season started. He should be coming back by June, kind of like the Didi Gregorius thing from last year. Hopefully he doesn't play like Didi. Hopefully he doesn't play the way that Didi played last year, but that's about it. I think Aaron Hicks is a really good player. One of the best center fielders in the game. Hopefully the Tommy John surgery makes him better. James Paxton's going to be out for 3 to 4 months. That was a big blow to the starting rotation, because we were thinking James Paxton's the number 2 starter. He's going to be our number 4 starter probably. But he's out with the injury. And we're thinking it's all right. We got Cole, we got Severino still, we got Tanaka, Happ, Montgomery. We're good. And then just a couple of days ago, we found out that Luis Severino needs Tommy John surgery, and he's going to be out for the whole 2020 season and probably parts of the 2021 season. It's devastating. It's really devastating for many different reasons. First of all, he's Luis Severino, okay? He was our ace in 2017. He was our ace in the first half of 2018. and then J-Happ was the ace probably the second half of that year. And I mean, I think he's one of the better young starting pitchers in the game. He's really young. I think he's only 26 right now. And it's also devastating because, he was hurt for most of last year, and we wanted to see him bounce back. Also, he was going to be the number 2 starter, and I think he's a number 1 starter personally. And he was going to be our number 2 starter. And we were looking at this starting rotation. We're thinking this could be one of the best starting rotations in baseball. I think it's a top 3 starting rotation. But now we suffered 2 major injuries to our rotation. I don't think it's one of the best in the game anymore. But I don't see a reason to panic. I see a reason to be upset, definitely, but I don't see a reason to panic. The season's not over. We still got to play the season, right? It didn't even start yet. We still have Garrett Cole. Hopefully nothing happens with him. Masahiro Tanaka, J-Happ, Jordan Montgomery. We just have to find that 5th spot. Who is gonna be the best pitcher or pitchers to take that spot? Now, I think the best option for the Yankees is to go with the opener. Now, there was that three batter minimum rule that MLB put in place, but that shouldn't affect the Yankees with the opener because most of the guys that they have in that bullpen are full inning guys, like Chad Green, Zach Britton, right? They're not specialists. They're not like Zach Britton's not a lefty specialist. He could pitch a full inning because he has that sinker baller, gets a lot of ground balls. He could pitch to lefties and righties, both the same. Obviously, Aroldis Chapman's your closer. Your closer should be able to pitch a full inning. I mean, some of the best closers in the game could pitch 2 innings. You should be able to get at least 3 batters. Your starting pitcher should at least face 3 batters minimum. I mean, that'd be pretty bad if your starting pitcher did not. But I mean, it shouldn't affect the Yankees at all when it comes to that opener thing because Chad Green could start it. You could bring in probably Jonathan Loaizaga to pitch 3 innings, then you can go to the bullpen. And I think it worked out for the Yankees a lot last year. Oh, yeah. Also, I forgot to mention Domingo Germán out until probably June for that suspension. I think I'm looking forward to getting Domingo Germán back. Obviously, what he did was not right, but he was really good last year, and that's all I really care about at this point is getting him back and getting James Paxton back. But I don't see a reason to panic because I think the opener should do just fine. Now, I think you also have options when it comes to minor league pitchers. You could go with Jonathan Loaizaga. You could go with Nick Nelson. You have a lot of options when it comes to these internal minor league pitchers. And Brian Cashman came out and said the Yankees will not trade for a pitcher now because there really is no market. There's no reason for teams to trade their guys because they're thinking, look, why are we gonna give up on a new season? We'll see how we'll see how we're playing. It's baseball. There's so many surprise teams. We'll see how we're doing this season. If trade deadline time comes and we're not doing good, we'll trade this guy. We'll trade maybe like the Marlins. Maybe they'll trade Caleb Smith. Now, I don't think the Yankees will trade for any pitcher at all this season unless these injuries get really crazy. And, like if we're in July and Paxton has a setback in his injury, if Tanaka gets hurt, then you desperately got to make a move or two, probably bringing in Caleb Smith from the Marlins. I think that's a good move. Johnny Cueto from the Giants, he has a big contract, but he's a good pitcher, and I think the Yankees could take on that contract. John Means from the Orioles, Matthew Boyd from the Tigers. You have so many options when it comes to starting pitching and trading, but that's all I have to say about the Yankees. So.
Okay, so Albert talking about the Yankees, and I just want to say, what a comeback that J-Happ made. He went from being one of like the bottom pitchers with like a 5.0 ERA, absolutely blowing it and showing his age, and now in 2 innings that he pitched and started, he went hitless and I think 3 strikeouts. And also we also have not that many injuries, like Chris said about Severino with Tommy John surgery. And then there's also Aaron Hicks, who's actually recovering from last year when he went Tommy John surgery. And then Paxton, of course, has the back surgery, which is like for like a assist. And then Stanton, no surprise there, calf is going again. If it's not his knee, it's his calf. It's like, it's a repeating cycle. I don't know. He's a really good player. He can play. But for real, dude, get your calf straight. Other than that, Garrett Cole had an impressive debut. He went hitless. I think he walked one, and he struck out two. And that just was a pretty stellar performance for him. And I think he has a lot of potential because, as we know, really good pitchers get traded over to the Yankees and then go flat. They just are not that good. Like, for instance, Sonny Gray. Sonny Gray was a really good pitcher when he was in California with the Oaklands, and then he came to the Yankees, blew it, was throwing like 70 pitches in 3 innings, and absolutely was like the bottom barrel pitcher for us. And he was just a terrible pitcher for us. And his problem was that not because of just because once he let one hit off, he lost total confidence in himself and just absolutely second guessed himself about every pitch he threw, and that caused his downfall. I see a lot of potential with the rookies that we brought up. Like, for instance, Trey, I don't know how to say his name, Trey Amberge. I don't know how to say it. He was a really good player. I think he was on our prospect list that we had. Overall, really good batting average. And like I said, he was one of our prospects on watch. Let's see what else is there. Hold on.
Well, Albert's looking up stuff. This is Mr. Dwyer. Just want to bring up a topic that's pretty interesting about Tim Tebow, because he's still trying to make the Mets at 33 years old. And he hit a homer, which is something. And it was opposite field, so it shows he has the power, but he still can't hit sliders and curveballs. Doesn't strike out as much as he did the last 2 seasons in spring training and in the minor leagues. Still got a great arm. Speed's been a little slowing down, obviously, with age, and you understand that with him. But I don't know when they're going to bring him up. This may have to be the year, especially with the way the division's going, looking for the future. But that's maybe something that we should continue to look at regarding spring training, regarding the MLB and these teams.
This is Albert again, and I got some more information back. Actually, 2 things I forgot to mention was, 1, we actually signed 2 veteran catchers, Chris Iannetta and Eric Kratz. Eric Kratz was a former Yankee. He's probably played in as many teams as Edwin Jackson has played in. He is 36, so I'm pretty sure this is going to be like a short-term deal for the Yankees. And another thing is, as you know, Brett Gardner's back with the Yankees. We re-signed him. I think he's going to retire after this season because they signed him to a 1-year deal. Because if he knew he could have gone longer, they probably would have signed him to like a longer deal. Because as we know, he's the longest tenured Yankee besides Sabathia. Because Sabathia retired last season. So pretty much Gardner is like the only like old school Yankee we have left. So once he retires, it's just going to be veterans from different teams. Like, for instance, LeMahieu. What else is there? Ottavino. And Happ. Those seem like the really almost like old players that have been around for a while. Another person we got to see return was Estevan Florial. Estevan Florial, he was an outfielder, and he I'm pretty sure he was on the DL for a while because he had a wrist fracture after he tried to make a leaping catch for he stole a home run from someone, so he got an injured wrist. And of course Mike Tauchman is also in the outfield too, and then of course Stanton's out with the calf injury. Frazier, we hadn't seen him too much in the last season. That his spot was maybe taken over by Gardner and Tachman and Judge, because Judge is like a really good right fielder, because he can he's so tall to the point where he can just lift his arm up and he catches the home run. Gardner, just overall really good player defensively. He leads the Yankee in steals of all time. And Tachman is a really good rookie. He's a good hitter. And yeah, and then of course Hicks last year made the amazing catch that got the Yankees an incredible win that went into extra innings.
This is Kenneth, and I want to talk about the Mets. Firstly, I think they're going to bring up Tim Tebow just to get jersey revenue, because people are going to want his jersey because he played in both the NFL and in spring training. So who wouldn't want it? Secondly, I want to talk about how you can make the Mets actually win the NL East. It's gonna be unlikely, but it could happen. So firstly, the Mets should somehow trade Cano, and a way to do this, you could trade Cano and JD Davis, who is really good actually, for a bullpen piece. For maybe someone like, I don't know, Kirby Yates. It's unlikely, but it could happen. And in doing so, you'd get a great bullpen arm and getting rid of one of the biggest burdens on your team. Another idea is to trade away Brandon Nimmo. He's a great player, and he's really fast too, but there isn't really enough space for him in the outfield. You have guys like Conforto and Jeff McNeil, so you don't really need him. He's like your average contact hitter, which is basically Jeff McNeil but better. So, and a third way to do that is to just don't trade DeGrom at all. He's your best pitcher, and if you trade him, then you're an idiot. Lastly, well, I don't know.
Once again, I'd like to mention another bogus article that was put out recently. It is on the first one. It's about the Mets. It's a shocking discovery that the Mets are bad, but
Not really.
one point about Brody Van Wagenen, the general manager of the future. It turns out that Mets fans have got so fed up with the Wilpons and their financial holdouts that Met fans are actually sending Brody Van Wagenen money over Venmo to request ideas for him. So they're sending him money so he can hire Girardi, so he can sign Rendon, and they want him to bring back the black uniforms. I just think that's ridiculous that this is even true about a multi-million, maybe $1 billion franchise that regular everyday Joes from New York are sending the Mets money. If you don't know a problem is now, then there's something up with you. Then another article that I found on Bleacher Report. It's 2020 playoff odds for every team. So it's a decent article. Of course, it's Bleacher Report, so it's gonna be bad. But the first discrepancy I have with it is that they say the Tampa Bay Rays only have a 60% chance of making the playoffs. I think that's absurd. The Rays have shown in past years that with their rising talent and amazing formula to making trades and which players they're going to get. Like, it worked out with Austin Meadows and Tyler Glasnow. They're both Tyler Glasnow is maybe the second, third starter in their rotation, and Meadows, he's an offensive superstar for them. He may not play the best defense, but bad boy can hit. And I just think they've made the wild card the past 2 years, and I think it's not fair to count them out here. Moving on to the AL Central. So, first place in the AL Central, they say the Twins have a 90% chance of winning the Central. I think that's perfectly fair. The Twins are a great team, and especially with the acquisition of Josh Donaldson, they could definitely make it. But the problem I see here is that they have the Indians over the White Sox. And I don't buy this because obviously you saw the Indians obviously selling when the season ended. And during the season they got rid of Bauer, they got rid of Kluber. And Jose Ramirez had a horrible season. I think Francisco Lindor is sidelined, so I don't really see the upside for this team. I mean, unless you think Jason Kipnis is going to lead them into the promised land. But I really don't see how the White Sox, with their acquisitions of Keuchel, Grandal, and Encarnacion, are not going to beat out this team. And especially, it's just, things are looking up for the White Sox. And I don't think at this point you could just put the Indians over them. Now, up next with the AL West, you have the Astros in first. I mean, you could say the Astros are still in first place. I mean, they did have the lead. They led the league in trash can hits last season. And I'm an offense. But after what happened with the whole scandal, I don't think the team chemistry and the team will be there. So it's obviously unfair to count them out. They're obviously very talented players, but they're going to be number one, but I don't think they're at the way they project them to be. Up next, they have the Oakland A's. They say the Oakland A's only have a 55% chance of making the playoffs. That's absurd. Moneyball has won it for them the past couple of years, and it would be a shame if they didn't get in. Because Oakland has a really nice team. I mean, they had top 3 MVP candidate Marcus Semien last season. And I mean, I don't know how you count them out. Oakland is a nice baseball city. They're very good there. Now, this is the crown jewel of the article. Starting with the NL East, the Mets are projected to win the NL East. They say they have a 60% chance of winning it. Now, I don't think Mets baseball is prevailing this season. I mean, Edwin Diaz is already showing his choking ways. He's already blown a game. Just played like 5 spring training games. It's just the hitting of this team. It's not up to level. You cannot count this team over the Nationals, especially the Braves. The Braves are going to win the NL East. If you tell me otherwise, you're a clown. There's no way they're not winning. The Braves have Acuna, Albies. You could say they don't have Josh Donaldson. They still have Austin Riley. He's a fantastic third baseman. He might not have the defense, but we saw his bat last season. And I don't know how you put the Mets, who don't even have a bullpen. I mean, you could say they got Dellin Betances, but we saw what he did last year, 3 pitches, and then he broke his arm. And it's just, you cannot put the Mets over the Braves and the Nationals. And, going on to the NL Central, they're saying the Cincinnati Reds are going to win. I can get behind that. The Reds have a nice core this season, led by Eugenio Suarez. Yeah, and they're going to be nice. But this is the thing I don't buy. They're saying that the Cubs have a 50% chance of also winning. The Cubs are the best team if you want to watch underperforming talent.
Without a Roldis, they suck.
Especially Javier Baez didn't produce enough. Chris Bryant didn't produce enough, and their acquisitions are not showing up for them, and they're spending too much money. I don't think they can beat out talent like the Cardinals and the Brewers. Especially the Brewers with Christian Yelich. They may not have the best core, but Yelich can carry a team. He's a very good offensive bat. And he has the defense too. Not the best, but I mean, the guy's winning MVP recently. I mean, you can't count out the Braves from this. The Brewers. Going on to the NL West, there's no discrepancies here. They're saying that the Dodgers have a 95% chance to win, and I can get behind that. But they're saying really no one else has a chance to make it in the playoffs, which I can't really get behind, because the Diamondbacks can still get in. The Diamondbacks are a very good team. We saw them building the whole time with Starling Marte. They still have Cattell, and they got Bumgarner this offseason, so I don't know how they can just undermine the talent like this.
Speaking of the Diamondbacks, something I want to talk about is so Madison Bumgarner, ever since he was a teenager, has been allegedly calf roping. No clue what that is. Don't want to find out. But apparently, while he was signed with baseball, he used a fake name to get into calf roping. Under the name Mason Saunders, which is to play off his first name and his wife's maiden name. And he used the alias to compete in a secret rodeo career. And we're not hearing much about it, only because the general manager cannot speak about the player's contracts. And yeah, so Bumgarner said on the issue that if he ever pursued after baseball, he would pursue a career in calf and rodeos. Another thing I want to talk about just really quick is I'm not the biggest fan of it, but I find it kind of cool is how the Padres and the Milwaukee Brewers have resorted to their old school uniforms, with the Padres having the brown camo and the Milwaukee Brewers reverting back to their old logo of the glove with the ball in the center of it. I find it kind of cool. I'm just not sure what they're gonna do for turn back the clock day, because they're pretty much the uniforms they're gonna be wearing are their turn back the clock day uniforms. So, other than that, that's about it.
Yeah, Mr. Dwyer here. Bumgarner doing rodeo stuff isn't really a surprise, with him injuring himself with a motorcycle in the past, and probably is the reason why he throws the awkward way he throws is because of the many chaotic things he has done, especially yelling at batters after they hit a home run against him. So, MLB playoffs are also being discussed by the league, and a lot of people have negative opinions about it, and we have our own opinions as a group as well.
Yeah. I can get into the idea that there's going to be 14 teams in this playoffs, but I don't really like how they're going to change up the number of games. I think the fact that the wild card had one game, it really amped up the intensity and like the hard work that the players had to put in for the game. And now I think they're making a 3-5 game series. I don't really think it'll have the same effect on baseball fans, and it's just going to draw out the action more.
Yeah, and I also heard another rumor. By the way, I don't think it would be starting this year. It would actually be starting like 2022. So, look, a change to the playoff idea would be, I would welcome it, depending on what it is. If I had to change anything, I'd probably, I mean, Bob Costas brought up an idea similar to what Noah just said, where you would add one more extra wild card team. So if we did it into this year's scenario, we'd have the Cleveland Indians in the playoffs. So instead of the Twins playing the division series against the Yankees, the Twins would actually play one of the 3 wild card teams, and they would get to choose which of the 3 wild card teams they wanted to play, which is something that MLB Rob Manfred has been talking about, which is teams possibly being able to choose their opponents. Now, I don't think any team should just be allowed to choose their opponent, but in this scenario, it kind of makes a little bit of sense. So the Twins would choose who they want to play. I would expect they choose the Indians, right? So they'd play a best of 5 series against the Indians. The Rays would play a 5-game best of 5 series against the A's. The winners of those series would go on to face the Yankees and the Astros, and we'd go from there. Now, Bob Costas also brought up an idea of shortening a bit of the regular season and making the division series a best of 7 series like the ALCS is. It's very awkward that it's a best of 5 series. I always thought that. I always used to get confused about that. I don't think many other sports use a best of 5 series. It's either a 1-game playoff or it's a best of 7 series. But, I think the second best thing to do is to not change anything at all. I think it's fine the way it is. However, but another thing that I was thinking of is making the bracket more towards like your record, right? Because that's a problem that we saw last year with in 2018, where the Cleveland Indians played the division series against the Astros, and the Yankees had to play the wild card team. Now, that year, the Yankees were a way better team than the Cleveland Indians were, and the Yankees definitely deserved to automatically be in the division series. They won 100 games that year. The Indians didn't even win 100 games. So yeah, I think I'd make it more towards record, and I'd leave everything else the same because I like it the way it is.
Well, we've talked a lot about football, basketball, the MLB, and now we go to the ice. What's going on, Keith?
Hi, it's Keith. So last Monday at 3 p.m. we had the NHL trade deadline. According to NBCSN, 33 trades involving 55 players. So obviously a lot of moves were made. Teams were selling, teams were buying. A couple of shocking trades, even something like last year, a sign-and trade. So a couple moves. So these aren't in any particular order, but we have a whole list of trades. Just going to break some of them down. But compared to the NBA, the NHL trade deadline towards the end was very exciting. There was obviously players that we didn't know were going to get moved. It was...
At this moment, we have the Zamboni going across the room of heat, known as the 4th floor, here at Salesian. We have the AM Salesian room steaming as always, and eventually we will fill that space with much discussion. Aside from that, while Keith's looking up this particular stat, Ovechkin happened to be one of those guys hitting a particular goal of importance, the 700th, and one of the best goal scorers of all time. Happy for him last year winning the Stanley Cup, or the year before, last year with St. Louis. You can't forget them. The unexpected of a beginning season. But it seems Keith has everything ready. The Zamboni has left, and we're back to discuss all these topics in one fell swoop.
Okay, so originally last time I said that Chris Kreider was going to be getting traded to a contender. Rather, he was signed by the Rangers to a 7-year, $6.5 million extension So obviously big news for them. Now I also said that it was more than likely that Alexander Gorgiev was going to be traded. Unfortunately, the night before the trade deadline, two Rangers were involved in a car accident. That was Pavel Buchnevich and Igor Shesterkin. Both are okay. But with Shesterkin being hurt now, obviously the Rangers needed to keep a goalie around, and Gorgiev was obviously that answer. Now, I did say Vegas was going to look to buy a goalie, and that would have probably been Gorgiev. And Vegas actually did wind up buying a goalie. It was Robin Leonard from the Chicago Blackhawks. So we have a couple trades throughout the day. And I guess a big one, this was actually kind of towards the end of the trade deadline. After 3 o'clock, this was announced. Sammy Vatanen and the New Jersey Devils was traded to the Carolina Hurricanes. And they had two major losses on defense. That was going to be including Brent Pesce and Dougie Hamilton. And both injuries seem to be long-term injuries. So obviously they were going to look to make a splash move, especially being a team built on defense, had probably one of the top defenses in the league. So they're going to get two prospects and a conditional fourth. And you get an okay defenseman in Sammy Vatanen, a down year in New Jersey, but everybody in New Jersey is having a down year. So it's not really not surprising. But they also acquired another defenseman, and now it's going to be Brady Shea from the New York Rangers. That was in return for a 2020 conditional first-round pick. That condition is that the New York Rangers will receive the later or lower of either Carolina or Toronto's 2020 first-round pick. And in return, Brady Shea, I think that he's having a down year, and he had a lot better of a year 2 years ago, and that's why he has a over $6 million contract. It's a 5.2. But I think the reason why he has that contract and the reason why he's not able to live up to it now is Jacob Trouba has affected his play, I felt. He doesn't look really comfortable out there, so maybe a change of scenery will really help him. And the Rangers also don't retain any of his cap, so they have a good amount of cap room freed up. Now, the Blackhawks made a stunning move and a somewhat stupid move, trading away Robin Leonard, I would say probably a top 10 goalie in the league, if not even lower, in return for Malcolm Subban and Slava Demin, a prospect right now in the USHL. The Leafs took on 50% of Leonard's contract in return from a fifth from Vegas. So Vegas is trying to get some cap relief, and then obviously Vegas gets Leonard. So all around, it was kind of a weird trade. First of all, it happened towards the end. I was hoping that the Hawks didn't make any stupid moves, and they unfortunately did right at the end. And obviously, it's kind of weird that you put your own team's cap on someone else's. That really didn't make much sense to me when that was announced as well. And then this was another shocking trade by the Hawks. The Hawks give up Eric Gustafsson, who is having a down year this year, in return for a conditional third. Pretty much the condition is depending if it's going to be Calgary's or Edmonton's pick in the third round, depending which one is better. And then Calgary really building up that defense. They made another trade with LA. So for Derek Forbut. So and there they only gave up a fourth. So that wasn't too bad. Really, and besides that, there was a couple smaller trades. And one shocking trade, actually, was Wayne Simmons going to Buffalo for a fifth. I really don't understand why New Jersey made the move. It's a fifth-round pick. You're not going to get much, or you're most likely not going to get much. I guess you'll find out down the road what you're actually going to be getting. But for a fifth for Wayne Simmons, and especially for Buffalo, I guess it kind of made sense for them. Obviously, you're getting a good to decent depth piece for a fifth. You're not giving up much. But this was a big one. Athanasiou to the Red Wings, Athanasiou from the Red Wings to the Oilers. So right now, the Oilers are going to have one of the best first lines. Probably put Draisaitl out there. I'm not really sure. They might move him down to the second line. So we'll see who's placed that wing. But you got McDavid, Athanasiou, and Draisaitl. It's going to be one of the quickest lines in the whole league. And in return, they only gave up Sam Gagner, who and 2 seconds, a 2020 and a 2021st. to be honest, I think for what they've gotten in Athanasiou, it far outweighs what those 2 second-round picks are going to be worth at all. I really like this move for them. Patrick Marleau is going to be on the move. Probably one of the better players to not have his name on the cup. He'll have a chance with the Pittsburgh Penguins this year. San Jose gets in return a 2020 conditional third-round pick. That condition is that the pick will be upgraded to a 2020 first second if the Penguins do win the cup this year. And then this was probably one of the bigger ones of the day. The Islanders have had trouble scoring. They got Andy Green, who they needed for their defensive defenseman role to replace Pelech. And then they went on this huge scoring drought, and Lou Lamoriello was pretty much forced into making this trade. But I think they actually won the trade. So the Islanders received Jean-Gabriel Pageau in return for a 2020 first, a 2020 second, and a 2020 or 2022 third-round pick. Now, there are a couple conditions on those picks. Picks might go up or move down a couple spots, so nothing really major. And then minutes after the trade happened, Pageau does sign a deal with the Islanders. So I think that was an even bigger move for the Islanders. So they're going to retain that talent instead of it just being kind of a rental move for this playoff push. But really, besides that, there really wasn't too many other moves. There's a lot of depth pieces getting moved around. Obviously, compared to the NBA, which is, a roster of 15 guys, in the NHL, it's a roster of 25 plus. Your depth pieces are going to be a lot more important than bench pieces in the NBA. Not saying that those aren't important, but injuries are a little bit more common in the NHL. Obviously, unlike the NBA, the NHL players don't stand out on the court for 7 to 8 minutes at a time, if not more. But they're going to be out there every couple minutes for about 45 seconds. So having that depth is really important, so you don't have to force your first two lines out there all the time.
Well, that was very in-depth, Keith. And we have more to talk about, surprisingly. Having started as late as we have, due to technical difficulties involving me and a meeting, we have so much to talk about. It's going to entertain you for an extensive amount of time.
So, this past weekend, the Toronto Make Me Laughs, that's correct, I said Make Me Laughs, did something almost ridiculous out of a movie. So, a game against Carolina, two of the Hurricanes goalies go down. That's going to be James Reimer and Peter Mrazek. They both go down, so who's going to be the goalie? Well, the Maple Leafs have in the corner, stuffed somewhere, David Ayers, who is the Zamboni driver. A 42-year-old Zamboni driver was forced into play. Now, I was not watching the game at the moment, but as soon as I got the notification, I switched the channel. Pretty much, the Leafs scored 2 quick goals on them, and this is in the second. Third period comes around, and this man transforms into a brick wall. The Maple Leafs lose to him, and we have Noah, who wants to say more about this great game.
Obviously, this is an unfortunate situation for the Hurricanes, but this is a great situation for hockey. I mean, when you get to be able to come on here and say that a 42-year-old Zamboni driver, which I think is officially now what I strive to be as a person, it comes on and gets the win for the enemy team at home. I think that's just amazing. I mean, as Keith said, the guy gave up 2 quick goals, but then he played lockdown defense the rest of the game. It is insane how, once again, a 42-year-old Zamboni driver can come on and play NHL goalie. It's insane.
Okay, thank you so much, Albert. Yeah. We got one more topic that I think is of supreme importance, and that is, of course, the sport across the ocean, and that is soccer.
All right, hello there. So I'm gonna talk about the Premier League. That's what I'm gonna talk about today. The standings, the Premier League goal scoring leaders, and the leaders in clean sheets. I'll be really quick about this. Leading the league, everyone knows this. It's Liverpool. They're the best team in the world. I mean, this team is fantastic, from the goalie, who's Alisson Becker, the defense with Virgil van Dijk. You know, they're two fullbacks, the left back and the right back, Andrew Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold are fantastic attacking right backs. And obviously that front three with Salah, Firmino, and Sadio Mane, it's fantastic. They're undefeated in the Premier League this season. They're making records. They will win the Premier League. If they blow this lead, I mean, I don't know how you can. They're literally undefeated. They have around a 22-point differential that separates them with second place Manchester City. That's right. Manchester City are having what seems to be a very good season. I mean, they're second place. They're probably going to win the Carabao Cup. I'm not sure what where they're looking at when it comes to the FA Cup. But, I mean, you should be happy about this. However, Manchester City fans are so disappointed because they're not going to win the league. They're banned from the Champions League for the next 2 seasons, so they're trying to win it this season. And really, they could possibly just walk away with just a Carabao Cup win. But either way, Manchester City are a really good team. In third place, Leicester City, who are one of the more surprising teams. I mean, they had the league goal leader in Jamie Vardy up front, who is just insane. When he's scoring goals, they're winning games, and they're in third place right now. Unfortunately, we're not going to have a year like 2016 where they had that impossible league win where everyone was happy with that. I hope that in a couple of months we don't find out. I hope we don't find out in a couple of months that they were actually cheating to win that league title. But whatever. Hopefully they could possibly come in second. That'd be really nice for Leicester City. Fourth place, barely in fourth place, we have Chelsea. Chelsea lost to Manchester United about 2 weeks ago now, and that's making this fourth and fifth place spot very close. Now, you may be wondering, why is that important? Well, the fourth place spot will equal a Champions League spot, and these teams want that because the Premier League is one of the more diverse leagues when it comes to champions, right? Almost every year there's a new winner, except for the past 2-3 years where it's been Manchester City and Liverpool dominating the league. But overall, there's a lot of really nice teams in this league. Manchester United are in fifth place, but again, it's really close. In sixth place, we got Tottenham, who are not playing to the potential or the ability that I think they should be, but I think they're a better team than they're playing. I think they should, and the way they're playing, I think they should be closer than they are. They're not that far out of it, however. But, I mean, they have the same record when it comes to wins. I'm sorry, not the same record when it comes to wins. This team has one less win than Tottenham. It's Sheffield United. They're in seventh place. They're doing so. It's surprising for them. I mean, they weren't expected to be in seventh place. They're expected to be more of like a 13th, 14th place team, but they're in seventh place. They're fighting. They could be in the race for a fourth place finish, and they could make it to the Champions League. It's crazy. In eighth place, we have Wolverhampton Wanderers, the Wolves. They're scoring goals. They won their last 2-3 games, I'm pretty sure. They're winning games. They're doing good. Arsenal, undefeated in 2020. Now, this is surprising a lot of people. Now, Arsenal, they're one of the more popular teams in the world. They're in ninth place, and they're undefeated in 2020. That just shows how bad they were prior. A lot of Arsenal fans out there, one of the more likable teams. I I think they're still in the mix for a fourth place finish. That's what the teams are looking for. It's more of a race for fourth place than it is for first place. And I mean, obviously fans would love that first place race, but that's not what we're getting right now. And in 10th place, I'm going to end it right here when it comes to the standings. In 10th place, we have Burnley with 37 points. Now, the rest of the teams are not very good. In the last 3 spots, I'll just bring it up. West Ham United in 18th place, Watford in 19th place, and last place in the Premier League is Norwich City. Now, the last three places will get relegated and will be demoted to the EFL Championship, which is kind of like where the less good teams are, and then the teams that are coming third, second, and first place in that league could move on to the Premier League. Now, Premier League goal scorers leading the league in the Premier League. Leading the Premier League with goals is Jamie Vardy with 17 goals. In second place, tied for first place with Jamie Vardy of Leicester City is Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang of Arsenal with 17 goals as well. In third place, technically it's third place. We have Sergio Aguero of Manchester City with 16 goals. In fourth, tied for fourth with Mohamed Salah is Danny Ings of Southampton, and obviously in tied for second with Danny Ings is Mohamed Salah with 15 goals. Mohamed Salah plays for Liverpool. Now, Premier League clean sheets. In first place, we have Nick Pope of Burnley with 11 clean sheets. In second place, or tied for first, we have Alisson Becker. And tied for third, we have Ederson of Manchester City, Kasper Schmeichel of Leicester City, and Dean Henderson of Sheffield United. So that's all I got to say about the Premier League. It's been a fun year. Again, it's more of a race for fourth place than it is for a spot for first place, but I still think that's enjoyable. These teams are excited. Especially because these not-so-good teams are in the race for a Champions League spot. It's pretty exciting.
We got a bonus discussion to have for you, and it involves a sport we have not talked about yet on this podcast. That is good old-fashioned boxing. So there was a match this weekend, and people have opinions.
Obviously, this weekend there was the highly anticipated fight between Wilder and Fury. When you look straight visually at the two people in the match, you think Wilder's gonna win, but that's obviously not what happened. Fury ended up taking it in about the third round. I think it was a knockout, or the coach threw in the towel, but it was a really lopsided fight with Fury taking it. I mean, when you looked at Wilder afterward, this guy, I've never seen a boxer take a beating like that before. It was insane. And, I mean, this is the rematch. Obviously, the first match ended with a draw. And I think it was a good rematch. I think people really got what they wanted to see out of these two boxers here. You saw Wilder's obvious flaws of he's more a brawler and he doesn't have the technical skills that Fury has, and I really think that's what got Fury the win here. This one goes for Miss Francis.
Thank you so much, Noah. And also, people were talking about how Wilder apparently came out in the suit that was particularly designed before the match went out, and it was 40 pounds. And because of that suit, walking all the way up to the match, they said he got tired because it took up more energy than he expected and he was used to in his routine going into matches. So he blamed himself for being too tired within this match from the design that he let people put for his costume. I guess he wanted to go in WWE style. It was pretty impressive of a costume. Looked like something out of The Masked Musician, one of those TV shows. But I think that really affected the entire thing, and he himself said so. So, with that, this is our longest podcast we've had so far, and next week we're going to have even more discussions regarding wrestling, possibly
Super Showdown.
some
Goldberg.
curling. Maybe not curling. We have enough ice on this podcast with hockey. I'm just kidding, Keith. But anyway, with that, thank you all for listening, especially us starting as late as we have. We will hear from you next week, and we're looking forward particularly to meeting with Vin Parisi tomorrow at our Q&A session with the famed college sports analyst on Fox and SNY. So we'll look forward to that. We'll talk about it probably a little bit next week, and we'll see you then.